Welcome back to Jersey Matters. I'm Larry Menti. We continue our conversation now with one of the most important issues in the state, the school funding formula, and the fact that many school districts in the state are underfunded. As a matter of fact, 70%. We are joined by 4 superintendent of schools, Dr. Brian Broschel with the Delran Township Public Schools, Rocco Tomazik with the Freehold Borough, Dr. Rocco Tomazik, Dr. Kathy Foster with the Robbinsville K-12 schools, and Dr. Frederick McDowell Jr. from Trenton. Thank you all very much for joining me. Let's start with something easy. Are you all underfunded?
I am.
Yes.
Let me go through quickly and get the percentages. How much are you underfunded?
By 48%.
48%.
45%.
32%.
It's about 35%.
About 35%. And how does that manifest itself? What obstacles does it bring you?
So as far as operating the school district, certainly there are challenges where we have to make cuts and make adjustments to the way our programs work, and certainly it manifests into a population in Delran Township of over 15,000 people that are significantly overtaxed and overburdened.
Yeah.
It's interesting he was talking about cuts because you are past the point now, at least when the show airs, of coming up with your budgets and your staffing for the following year. Has this affected that? It has to, right?
Definitely. We need many more teachers to lower our class size. As it is, with this amount of money that was assigned to us, we could only add 3 positions. We need 38.
And how has it affected you?
And what we've done is we've had to be creative, like many districts across our state who are underfunded, and we reallocate. So when we have a non-renewal, a resignation, or a retirement, we would use that full-time employee and reallocate to another position, our most needed positions.
Dr. McDowell, have you needed to fire anybody or lay anybody off?
Not this year. What we've been able to do is we were fortunate to have excess surplus funds as a one-time expenditure that helped us to avoid that. But long-term, the funding on average translates into about 100 to 150 reductions each and every year.
There's two problems on the table. Actually, there's more than 2, but 2 big ones. And one is the school funding formula and what to do about it and how to apply it in the future. But the more immediate problem is this $700 million in adjustment aid. And it's interesting that the 4 of you are here. You're all underfunded. You are all joined together in wanting to have better education and having everybody funded. But at the same time, you're all fighting for this adjustment aid.
Right.
And how do you fight for it? How do you make your case? And I'll start with you, Dr. McDowell.
I think the first case has to be a conversation about equity. Children each have different needs, and equity really has to drive the discussion. So not a conversation about equal, but equitable, in order to make sure that students that have adverse situations that are contributing to the lack of proficiency aligned to state standards, they have an opportunity to be able to meet the same bar across the state. So,
And that's not happening?
No, that's not happened.
Well, and I was just going to say, if you notice, each of us are under 50% underfunded. We also know that there are some districts who are overfunded by over 100% and maybe even over 200%. If some of the funds were reallocated in a way that I think elevates all of our students in the state, I think that would help.
Let's get, since you brought that up, let's get right into the long-term problem. From what I understand, and the gentleman that was in the segment before said, there's really no problems with the formula, right?
I agree with that.
And it just has to be, it has to be managed, it has to be operated, it has to be adjusted year to year like it was supposed to be.
Correct.
To be fair, the formula is much like an automobile that requires fuel, gasoline to run. The formula requires finances to run, and certainly the concept of adjustment aid has come under significant fire from the awareness that has been promoted by many of the underfunded school districts and communities throughout the state. And keep in mind, this certainly is a municipality issue as well, because a lot of residents in all of these towns are becoming overtaxed. So it is a taxation issue, it is a quality of life issue, and it's one that has a direct and immediate impact with the schools. But at the end of the day, the School Funding Reform Act of 2008 did pass judicial muster and ultimately needs the fuel to run. And what we're asking the legislators to do is to identify ways in order to make that happen so we can see some relief on the taxation side, and we can also see some improvements in the way that we're able to manage our districts and create great programs for our terrific teachers to implement.
Is there a magic bullet here? I mean, if you were in charge, how would you fix things? Not just for the Trenton School District, but for everybody. You're smiling already. Because is that an impossible question?
So I think that it is. I think that each school system, each community has needs exclusive to their community, so there is no magic bullet. I believe that school systems need to be equipped with the resources and the tools to be able to make those decisions and not have to compromise what they know is the right thing to do for their students.
From what I understand, too, the problem with the funding formula is politics. That the people that are doing well and their districts are overfunded don't want to change a thing, and leaving the people that are underfunded fighting for funding. And Phil Murphy ran for governor saying that was all going to change under him. Are you disappointed with him so far?
I don't see right now a short or a long-term plan. And so I think that if we see that and we see a real commitment, I think then we're moving in the right direction.
Is he better than Christie on this?
Well, for me, the aid numbers that were put out this time were worse than they were under the last year of Governor Christie. I think that I have no problems with the $283 million additional dollars into education. I think where the problem is that it wasn't directed to those who needed the money the most, and it was distributed in a way that made no sense and is unfair.
It made no sense? Who got the money that you're upset about?
Well, there's districts that are already over-aided that received additional money, which doesn't seem to make any sense.
And you're all in agreement with that, is that it didn't make sense the way they distributed the money?
I think they distributed it equally, which is not fair, because the distribution of equal aid meant that overfunded districts got additional money, as opposed to taking a look at the full picture of which districts needed it the most.
Are you all involved in lawsuits against the state because of the funding? I'll go right down.
Yep.
Yes.
You are?
I am, yes.
We are not, but we are considering it.
We are not, but we are also considering.
And what would be, for the two people that are not, what would be the last straw for you? Why would you get involved in the lawsuit?
Well, I do think that I know the Assembly and the Senate have been working hard to create a short-term plan for the funding for our districts. If we see some promise there, I think that might help. However, if it's lip service and we don't receive additional aid or aid that we feel is necessary to really sustain what Robbinsville has, we will definitely join the fight.
And what are you waiting for?
I believe in fairness to the governor. It's too soon. The jury is not out yet. He needs to be given the opportunity to deliver on his promises. That's really what we're waiting for. We know that we have representatives in the Assembly that are advocating specifically for Trenton, but the powers of government need the time and opportunity to work through, and the discussions are taking place. So we're waiting to make sure that individuals are going to follow through with what they've said.
You're all looking for funding, and Lakewood, New Jersey just got a $28 million loan after getting a $14 million loan last year that it looks like they're not going to pay back. I just wanted to get your feelings on that.
I wouldn't want to ask for a loan if what I'm asking for is what we should be given in the first place. When you ask for a loan, it sort of suggests that some circumstances have occurred beyond your control that you need some short-term temporary help. To ask for a loan to operate the district properly when you should have been given the state aid in the first place, to me, just doesn't make any sense.
Were you surprised at the district getting $28 million?
I don't know their facts, but what surprised me is that there was $28 million of money available in Trenton that wasn't given to the formula when the money was given out. So I don't know how they keep this much money in reserve that could be given out, but maybe there's a good answer. I just don't know.
And there is no answer to that, right? Nobody knows where the money came from or what fund that came from. This just $28 million appeared and was given, and it's doubtful. It seems like it's pretty doubtful that it's ever going to be paid back. I want to get to one last thing, and I think this is at the root of much of what's happening. There is this fight in Trenton between the Senate president and the governor. And that fight in Trenton seems to be the root of a lot of the problems. And it's a problem when it comes to the school funding formula. Do you feel the effects of that? And does that get in the way of you coming up with a permanent solution?
We're certainly not taking sides, but we appreciate what the Senate President has done for this issue for every district and every municipality in the state.
All of
that
you
is
feel the same
underfunded.
way?
I do. I think that the Senate President has been forthcoming. He was very important last year in coming up with the solution after the government shut down to come up with a more equitable state aid for the underfunded districts. So there was every expectation that this wouldn't even be a problem this year. So I think in his mind, he's going to solve this once and for all.
Wonderful. Thank you all for being here. I wish we had more time. Good luck to you in your fight, because I know you're fighting for the students. Brian Broschel with the Delran Township Public Schools, Rocco Tomazic, Freehold Borough, Kathy Foster, Robbinsville K through 12, and Dr. Frederick McDowell from Trenton. Thank you all for joining us. I really do appreciate it. Jersey Matters continues right after this. When we come back, remember Jerry Cooney? He used to fight for championships. Now he's fighting for the greater good.